This is Jesse Ray. Welcome to the Growth House Podcast. I am here with Hannah. Hannah, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm super excited to do a deep dive with you into some topics that myself, I'm actually really interested in. But first, show's about you, and I want you to paint the picture of what life looks like right now for Hannah Hammond.
Oh gosh, life is good. It's actually what I never thought it would ever be. So I'm really happy. But yeah, it wasn't always what I have now. But I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I pretty much do what I want to do. I have, I wake up, I work out at my favorite gym, and you're there too. So I get to see people like you. And then have a great team in place. I wake up, I journal, I meditate, I do breath work, I play with my puppies, go to work out. Set my intentions for the day, and then have my team do everything. They lean on me a bit for instruction and everything like that. And then obviously I work with clients, negotiate contracts, do hard money loans, things like that. And then usually I do dinner with a friend and go get happy hour. And I travel a lot. Usually every weekend I'm gone somewhere, and then do some, longer week-long trips every other month or so. So yeah, life is awesome.
Life is good for you.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, take us back, because you didn't grow up with money given to you. You didn't have someone that was guiding you along the journey. 25, I believe, self-made millionaire. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So take us back. How did it start? How did you even get involved with entrepreneurship or real estate?
Yeah. So I was, at a pretty young age, I knew that the environment that I had just wasn't what I wanted as an adult. I was kind of a Mensa brain and could figure things out pretty early in life. And I was always drawn to wealth. I was always drawn to, fortunately, I had a couple friends at a young age that were pretty wealthy, had a private yacht in San Diego Harbor, had penthouse suites that we could stay in, had, Porsche 911 turbos and mansions on Camelback Mountain. So I was exposed to that by the time I was 15. But even before that, when I was really young, like 6, 7 years old, I was just very entrepreneurial and was very dedicated to schoolwork. I was always top of my class since, kindergarten. I was very anal about that. But the ultimate catalyst for me when I decided to get into real estate was when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, who's actually a local here. And it just clicked for me. It was the only book I really needed to read to decide I was going to be a real estate investor. I was going to get my license on my 18th birthday as soon as possible. And, I kind of just ended up selling real estate after that and building that business. But originally I wanted to be a real estate investor and do value add projects, acquire rental properties, build passive income and cash flow to achieve financial freedom. So that's what I did right away.
I love it. And it's so interesting because some people read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And for me, I actually got into stocks first from that. I was like, oh, okay. Well, stocks is something I should get into. So I hired a stock coach. And then eventually I took all the money that I made in stocks to then get into real estate. So what about that book made you say, oh, I want to get into real estate after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
I did stocks too. That was the first thing.
There you go.
Yep. I had a custodial account under my dad's name. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. But he was into stocks. That was like the one thing that he would try to do. So I did that. I ended up day trading. I had a whole setup with 6 monitors and,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was not fun though. I was trading Bitcoin back when it was a couple $100 or whatever a coin. And, but ultimately I was very, my emotions on a day-to-day basis depended on the stock market and how my stocks were doing. And it was such it was just too up and down and up and down. And I was too emotionally triggered by what was going on. So it just wasn't healthy for me. And I wasn't making consistent money. It was too easy for me to get in and out and just be fearful or greedy like most people can be. And so I decided after reading that book, I was going to do stocks and real estate, but I had to wait till I was 18 to start doing real estate. So I was doing stocks in the interim. But once I was 18 and I got my real estate license and had a couple big wins, I just decided to go that route. I kept trying stocks for a while and I still dabble in mostly cryptocurrencies, but for the most part, all my wealth has been built through real estate.
That's amazing. So you started off with some big wins with real estate as a real estate agent. Was it in residential, commercial? Because I know you dabble in a couple different, projects now in asset classes.
Right. It was actually both. So I started at a residential brokerage, held an open house in my neighborhood. The neighbor is the only person that showed up, and he listed a $1.1 million commercial property with me. So that was my very first deal. Moon Valley Nursery now owns it in Phoenix. And my second deal, which was right after that, was a $1 million home in Troon, which was a luxury home. So right out of the gates at 18 years old, I was commercial, luxury, and off and rolling, and was able to use that money to buy my first condo, which I had to live in at the time, but I renovated it and furnished it. And then as soon as I bought another property that I could actually house hack in, a bigger property, then I rented that one out fully furnished.
Speaking my love language, you said house hacking. All
Yeah.
right. For those that don't know, what is house hacking?
So house hacking is basically when you purchase a property and usually take advantage of a good residential loan, owner occupied loan, and then you can rent out the other bedrooms or units if you do like a fourplex or threeplex or duplex. So the essence is that you use the income to pay your mortgage and you basically live for free and you're building appreciation and equity.
Yes. Favorite strategy right there. Would you recommend that's the number one strategy if someone was getting into real estate as an investor, that would be the number one thing that you would look into, or do you have a different, method today?
I think there's lots of methods to get into real estate. I think that's the path of least resistance. So it's the easiest because you're like, I need a place to live. I can get a residential owner occupied loan, which saves you a bunch on interest, which saves you a ton of money. And it's just makes the most sense for you. It's the least scary and the best rate in terms. So yeah, I think so. Now, if you're somebody that has a bunch of money and you maybe have some more opportunity to maybe get into something commercial or to some bigger projects right out of the gates and you just rent your place already or already own your house, then that's an opportunity too. But I did the house hacking thing and took advantage of owner occupied loans for my first handful of properties and it worked out really well. So I can't say otherwise.
That's amazing. Okay. Continue the story from your house hacking. You're selling now $1 million homes. Did it stay that way? What ended up happening next?
So I was the first in my family to go to college and I got a full ride scholarship. So that was a really big detour for me. I was doing—
Wait, you went to college after you're doing all this? You're buying houses and selling?
Yeah, while I was doing that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But I was in engineering school and I wanted to finish in 3 years, which most people took like 7 years to do what I was doing. But I just wanted to like get in and out. I didn't want to waste any more time. That's why I picked engineering because it was the highest paying degree and the least amount of education. And I knew I wouldn't have to go into debt to get that degree because of my full ride merit scholarship. So that's what I was doing. So I didn't really have a lot of time to focus on real estate. Looking back, I could have been even more successful if I spent, 3.5 years of time on real estate right away, but I don't regret it. It helped build my resume. It gave me that experience. I got to check corporate America off the box and know that wasn't the route I wanted to go. So everything worked out great, but I was buying real estate and renovating real estate while I was in college and doing some deals on the side here and there, but I didn't have time to be like a full-time real estate agent by any means. Mm-hmm. And then I got offered a job for Empire Cat, which is an incredible company. And I was in, engineering. I ended up being in management there, in engineering management pretty quickly. And they were awesome to work for. I had an absolute blast. And I was still doing real estate on the side. And I was making more money doing real estate on the side. And I was working really hard at my job, which I loved my job. But I was like, when I got my checks and I saw everything that was taken out for taxes, my first check, I cried. I literally opened my check. I could almost cry right now remembering the day. And I cried and I called my brother and I'm like, this is the worst part of the game. Like, I don't want to pay taxes. This is terrible. And that's when I started studying the tax code and the tax advantages that real estate brings. And about 1.5 years later, I actually bought a one-way ticket to Hawaii, but that's a whole other story. But I ended up opening a few construction companies because I wanted to be able to do multifamily renovations and have the renovations in-house. And I just had this big grand dream. I'm going to, do the investments. I'm going to do the construction and I'm going to do the management all in-house. And then I realized that construction is not my field. It is not for me. So I ended up getting out of those companies. And that's when I decided I'm going to do real estate full time. And that was like at the end of 2021, which wasn't, that long ago.
Not at all. So 2021, and then what happens after you're like, okay, I'm dabbling with the construction companies. And then you said you want to go full time just into real estate.
Yeah. So I branded myself as a commercial real estate agent and set out to find a brokerage that had a luxury brand that had low splits or fees that allowed me to do commercial and residential. And I quickly learned that it didn't exist. And so that's why the firm was born, my real estate brokerage. And so we launched the firm on January 1 of 2022. So we just did our 2-year anniversary. And it was really trying to solve my own problems. I wasn't in my plans to build and grow a real estate brokerage initially, but I absolutely love it. It's been really awesome.
So you started in residential, and then you went into multifamily, and then you went into commercial, correct?
Yeah, correct. That's pretty, yeah. That's kind of like, it's kind of how investors usually do it, right? Path of least resistance. You start with single family homes or condos, and then you start doing some like duplexes or triplexes, whatever. And then you start going into like larger multifamily, 5 units and up. And then you start, once you have some real big cojones, you start doing like commercial, flips and stuff like that, where you start buying actual office buildings, retail buildings, hospitals, medical, all things like that.
So we've talked off the podcast, excuse me, about some of the commercial, deals that you do, but what intrigued you into commercial? Because commercial to me, like, sounds like you said, like it's so much, such big, projects, but why were you like, you know what? I want to get into commercial and I can do this. Like, for example, you said like, oh, I just read the tax code and learned about this. Like most people like don't think that way, which is amazing. But what would you do to get into commercial, and what made you realize you want to do that?
So I think because my very first deal was commercial, I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's a ton of money, right? Commercial assets are worth way more than residential assets. So your deal value is a lot larger, and it's not emotional. So I'm not a very emotional person. I'm more so now than I used to be, but I was really like had no feelings back in the day. And commercial real estate is not emotional. It's just numbers, So with my engineering brain, I loved the idea of a property being valued based off of its income and based off of a cap rate, because you can technically manipulate both pretty easily. Whereas residential properties, they're just based on what someone will pay for it. Like they're completely based on supply and demand and emotion, right? And so I was like, I don't want kids or anything like that. Back then, I didn't even want a husband or anything. Things have changed a little bit now, but I didn't want to like work with families and go show them 10,000 houses and, talk about the paint color of the kids' room and all that stuff. It just wasn't something I could really relate to. And so commercial it just clicked for me. I could provide value to my clients. I could teach them things that they didn't know. And it was a lot easier. There was a lot less showings. I could have national clients. The checks were bigger, and it just really like gave me energy and made me excited. Whereas the residential side kind of more sucked energy from me, unless it was like friends and family and doing stuff like that. Then it was a lot of fun for me. But to go out and hold open houses and door knock and all of those things just weren't things that I was super excited about.
Mm-hmm. Well, people love that we do like a little tactical deep dive. And you mentioned multifamily, and you said I can like do a deep dive on how to do forced appreciation and how to exit those deals. So let's do that. I think people will love to kind of hear more about multifamily, because like you said, people usually start for residential, and myself included. I'm like, okay, residential, co-living, but I kind of want to play with the big boys. I want to do, bigger deals, bigger transactions. And so let's do a deep dive there. Where do you want to start?
Absolutely. So I'll start with how multifamily is valued. And so we can maybe make a little picture of this, but the value, like the way a commercial asset is appraised or valued, is based off of its NOI and its cap rate. And NOI stands for net operating income, which is basically your gross income minus expenses. And it's pre-taxes and pre-debt liability. And so the better the building is, the lower the cap rate. So the cap rate is just the return on the purchase price of the property per year. So like if you buy $1 million building that makes $100,000 a year net operating income, that's a 10% return per year. So that means you bought it at a 10% cap rate. So that's all cap rate means. So usually the way cap rates work is the less desirable the asset, the higher the cap rate, the higher the return, right? It's like investing in a penny stock versus a blue chip. You're going to get a lower return on Apple, but you're going to always get that return. And it's a really safe stock. It's a really safe company. Whereas a brand new IPO, you might make 1,000x return or a lot bigger return, but you might lose all your money and have a lot of issues, and it might be a disaster at the same time. So same thing goes for real estate. People will, for a brand new building in a great location with great tenants and doesn't need any maintenance, really like renovations or anything for a long time, they're going to pay a premium for that property. So when you go into multifamily, and let's say you target something that's mismanaged, has poor management in place, maybe it's some vacancies which are affecting its NOI. It's got less NOI than it's capable of. Let's say you're going to buy a 10 unit and it only has 7 filled, and the management's really poor and they haven't raised rents in 5 years. And so market rent may be $2,500 a unit and they're renting them for $1,700 a unit. There's a massive ability to go in, renovate the units, put a new manager in place, and possibly double your rents. And the nice thing too with multifamily is you can renovate one unit at a time and continue to make the income on the other units while you're renovating it. So like a house, if I were to renovate, this house that I'm in, I wouldn't have any income that whole time. And I just have a cost of debt service, right? And you're kind of under the gun. Whereas multifamily, you can kind of relax a little bit more because you still have all of those other units providing you income as you do one. And there's a lot less thought process too that goes into renovating multifamily because, they're smaller units. Like a house in Paradise Valley, you need a designer. It's very, the buyer, the seller, the buyers that you're going to be selling to are super picky. So you have to know like the trends and what's in, and you have to have very high quality work. Whereas tenants in a multifamily, slap some vinyl in, some quartz counters, some light paint, and you're pretty much good to go. So you can basically go in, let's say you double your net operating income after a massive renovation and new management and whatever, or 50% increase. It doesn't matter. Obviously, the more you increase your NOI, the more profits you're going to make. But there's lots of room in that. So as you make the property better, people are also going to pay a lower cap rate for it. So they're going to pay a premium. And so you're manipulating your NOI and you're also manipulating your cap rate. So if you do that equation, the math, value equals NOI divided by cap rate, you will be able to quickly see how much money you can make. It's very much exponential versus linear because it is a math equation. It's not just supply and demand. Like you can, add some value to a house, but your gains are more linear because it's just there's more people that want the house basically.
Mm-hmm. When you're looking at multifamily, what's like your buy box that you specifically look at now?
So it depends on where you're at. But the main thing I look for is poor management, undervalued rents. A lot of people miss that because they're like, oh, this property they're asking, they're looking to sell it at a 5% cap rate. That's too low. That's too expensive. But you might miss gold because there is a chance that it's it's expensive for the net operating income that it has, but it might be 50% vacant and it might have rents that haven't been increased in 10 years from an out-of-state owner. And so you might just pass up gold because you're just looking at the cap rate. That's why I don't pay too much attention to that when I'm searching for properties. I really look for poor management, vacancies, really good location, like location. I don't like buying in areas that I wouldn't live. That's kind of my rule of thumb.
You live kind of nice, so I don't know if there's
like anywhere I can pull up my G-Wagon. But I don't mean like that. I just mean I have to feel safe in the neighborhood in, a vehicle.
So what is that for you? Like usually C plus, C class neighborhoods? B?
No, that's scary to me. I always target B or A neighborhoods if I'm buying or recommending my clients to buy a multifamily or any property for that matter. And so maybe like buy a B or A neighborhood that's a C property, and then you bring the property up to an A, and that's where you go. Because when you're in like the bad neighborhoods, you have so much costs that are unforeseen. Like it may look pretty on paper, like, oh, it's a great cap rate, it's a great deal, but you have vacancies, you have repairs, you have massive turnover, you have evictions, you have so much shit that you have to deal with. And like all my properties are in very nice areas, and I've never had an eviction. I've never had to keep a security deposit. They're always filled. The rents always go up. I can Airbnb them. I can long-term rent them. I can do anything. And then I hear people that literally bought one property 50 years ago in South Phoenix and had a bad experience. The tenant burned the house down and they never invested in real estate again.
Oh man. Don't tell me about South Phoenix. I mean, we're in South Mountain, but This is good over here. I say this is a B class neighborhood.
It's debatable.
You said, I'm not sure about that. Talk to me about out of state investing. Is that something that you look into, or are you someone that's like, hey, I want to stay in my backyard?
I personally stay in my backyard because I know it very well. I'm also a real estate broker, so I get commissions, I save money on it, and all that stuff. Now, people will go either way on this. I mean, I think Arizona is a great place to invest. We happen to be in a city that's growing tremendously. We've got tons of money moving here. It's a great place to live. We don't have a lot of natural disasters. It's very low maintenance costs on properties, very low taxes. So I think it's just a gold mine to invest in. But yeah, if I lived in a really horrible city to invest, I would definitely look elsewhere. But we happen to be fortunate to live in a place that's great to invest. However, if you're just an investor and you're not doing, commissions and have a lot of those advantages like I have, I also, meet clients from searching for investments and things like that, then it's good to find a market that you really vibe with, that you believe in. You can do your market data and demographics. And, as you can even go to multifamily like syndication courses, and they'll teach you how to analyze properties, and you can lean on the network of those other communities. But you always want to be able to like fly out there, see the area, get to know the area, or maybe you have a place that you really love to visit. Maybe you're like, oh, I spend every summer in Michigan and I really love this area. I'd love to invest there. So I would say have it somewhere that you like, that also is a really good place to invest numbers wise, because that's what it really comes down to. But somewhere that, you wouldn't have a problem flying out to if you needed to manage a renovation project or talk to the manager or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then as far as communities, you did mention leveraging and being a part of communities. How much has that impacted you? Because I feel like you're someone that so for me in the Growth House, our motto is you become who you surround yourself with. And it's so important. Did you have that inner circle of friends, growing up, or once you started getting into real estate that you're like, all right, I got to be intentional who I surround myself with? Or are you more like a lone wolf? You're like, I'm just going to get out here and, get it done.
I was a lone wolf my whole life, and until recently, very, very recently. Now I joined EO, Entrepreneur Organization, and now I have an amazing network of people around me that are just incredible, big thinkers, because you are this kind of average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and that really is true. So growing up, I really just spent time alone, and my community was books, and a lot of that, I had a lot of issues. I'm very open about my issues with anxiety and depression, and work was kind of my outlet and my void. And I didn't, it wasn't that I didn't like people. I just had so many I didn't like myself. And so I couldn't go out there and build good relationships with people. And so I was just kind of a lone wolf, but luckily I had the internet and books and things that I could just dive in and have, I wouldn't call it a community, but have education that I could learn from and then just go put it to work. But my biggest regret, which I don't regret anything, but this I do regret, is not prioritizing my health sooner. I was using work as an outlet to cope with the issues I was having instead of, taking care of putting my health as a top priority and healing first, and becoming whole and fulfilled from the inside, and then being able to thrive through my business after that. So it was kind of I would have been able to grow a lot faster if I would have had a community, I feel like. But it's, everything happens for a reason. And a lot of times entrepreneurs have similar stories that, pain is the first catalyst to their entrepreneurship and their growth. So it's hard to say how that would have gone down. But yeah, having a community is everything. Your network is your net worth at the end of the day. And a billionaire, I forget his name, but someone on TikTok was saying, millionaires are very good at making themselves money. And that's what I was. I was very good at making myself money. But billionaires are very good at making other people money. And when you take that mindset shift, it's so nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be closer to the truth, because it's everything I do on a daily basis is how do I serve every single person that I'm in contact with or that I'm serving. For my real estate clients, I don't care about my commission. The commission is the byproduct of serving that person and making that person money. I've told clients not to buy assets where I would have made hundreds of thousands on commissions, and I'm I wouldn't do it. because my priority is serving that client. And that's how you build a good reputation. And the money's always a byproduct of that. If you do good and you focus on making other people money and making other people fulfilled, not just financially, but also, full circle in life as well, and mental health and physical health and all that stuff, then I think the money will always flow to you. And it's the concept of Go Giver, the book series Go Giver. I would definitely read that if you haven't, to whoever's watching.
One of my favorite books right there.
So good.
So good. Talk to me about, you're able to attract great people, right? As having your brokerage and starting the firm, you have people now coming to you. And a lot of people ask, like, how do you recruit people? And so it's something I'm curious what you say about that. Like, how do you find good talent to come work with you?
Yeah, I don't recruit really, as a matter of fact. I like our brokerage's boutique. We have like 25 agents, I would say. And I like to keep it that way because it's very much close knit. It's more of a family environment. You're not just a number, because I didn't like being a number at, some of the bigger brands. But people, both in social media, has been amazing. Like, I connect with people first on kind of social media. They find me or see me or whatever. I post stuff and add value. And then they're like, hey, I want to learn commercial, or hey, I want to come do this, or I really love your brand, and whatever the case may be. And that's how I've pretty much recruited agents and clients, for, as a matter of fact, is just putting value out there and making myself known on social media. Just a little bit of effort, not even a lot. I'm just now starting to put more effort into it, because it is amazing to be able to build that community from the technology that we have access to.
I love that. I've been telling you got to get out there more, because every single time I'm hearing a clip of a podcast, I'm like, damn, you're amazing. And so, yeah, I'm excited for you to, get yourself out there, get on some stages and do some speaking.
Thank you. I'm excited too. I was talking to Jamil Damji about this. I was like, oh, it's, this year, one of my goals was to get comfortable speaking and making myself more present so I can really make a bigger impact, the impact that I truly want to have. And I was like, it's kind of a coincidence that now all of a sudden, like, I'm getting all these, opportunities to be on podcasts or whatever. He's like, it's not a coincidence. Like, that's how it works. You put things into your mind, manifest them, and your life is created by you and your thoughts, subconsciously. And so I'm a big believer that life doesn't happen to you. You create all of it, and coincidences aren't coincidences. You've put everything in place for those things to happen.
I love that. We have a quote at the Growth House inspired by one of my friends, Zachary Keeps, and it's nothing happens randomly when you live intentionally.
I love that. I've heard you say that or I think you were wearing a shirt the other day. That's
yeah, it was a sample, and I was like, let me see what that looks like. So
yeah, I need that shirt for sure.
I got you. But I want to switch it up. So let's talk about, because here's the thing. People get on podcasts, people are on social media, and all it is a highlight reel for the most part, right? There's very few people being just like, hey, this is who I am. Here's some of my learning lessons. Here's some of my things where I wish I would have done better. And for you, what's like a L? We're not going to call it a failure. I always like to call everything a learning lesson. What's a learning lesson that's happened in the past few years that you learned from and grew from?
The big thing is prioritizing your health. That has been my business has, exponentially grown since I started going to the gym every day and started to, eat healthier. Although I'm such a foodie, it's very hard for me to eat healthy, but prioritizing that more, doing meditations, really looking inward instead of outward. For things that has been huge, because I used to always think that stuff didn't have an ROI, and boy, was I mistaken. I'm like, taking 2 to 3 hours a day out of work, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to go do that. It's going to take away, I'm going to sell less real estate. I'm going to do less loans, make less money, blah, blah, blah. But there's nothing more important than doing that every single day and setting your intentions for the day and journaling and having gratitude. And I do random acts of kindness, and I work out, 6 days a week, and then recovery to eat. So all of that has been huge. So whatever you're doing in life, from my experience, I prioritize that first. And even if I have 1,000 messages, I do my morning routine first. And my business has grown substantially from doing that. The next thing is the network. Don't isolate yourself. It's super lonely. Entrepreneurship's all like already a lonely road. And to isolate yourself or to have a scarcity mindset or to have low self-worth or to feel like an imposter, and just get rid of all that. Like, do what you need to do. And the health part will help you with that as well. Those will kind of be a direct correlation. I feel like at least in my experience, it was. So the network thing is huge, getting into the right circles. Always, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Like, always help people and train people, but make sure your circle is above you and is thinking as big as you're thinking and where you want to go. Because if you're in a group that makes $100,000 a year, you're probably going to make $100,000 a year. If you're in a group that makes 10 million a year, you're probably going to make 10 million a year. And that's just how it ends up working. So that's super important, is who your circle is, and being okay to let go, kindly let go of people that are no longer serving you in your life and that you're no longer serving either. Because as you grow and evolve, you got to peel the layers of the onion, and you have to let go of people, even if they're family. If it, I've let go of lots of family relationships, and childhood friend relationships, not because I don't love them, but it's just not it doesn't have the same purpose in my life anymore of where I want to go. That would be number two. And then I would say those are the top two things.
Totally agree, 100%. A lot of people have a struggle with letting some people go. What was kind of your way of doing it? For me, I don't say, hey, it's cold turkey, cut them off, unfollow them on Instagram. You're like, you don't have to be that dramatic. But for me, it was just like, hey, Jesse, you want to go out? I'm busy, and I give them a reason, because I'm doing X, Y, Z. And then it was slowly just not responding as quickly. And then they kind of got the hit message like, hey, okay, I'm not just, I have time just to kick it or to hang out or go drink or party. And so for me, it was kind of a gradual just distancing myself. For you, what'd you end up doing? How'd you, go through that?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. The third thing I was going to say is make sure to pick your business partners wisely. That's a big learning lesson I've had. And I've been, I'm very trusting and very kind and very much a people pleaser. And I've been burnt a lot of times from that. And again, I don't regret it because I learned a lot. But make sure, you have operating agreement signed, you dot your T's, cross your I's, or flip that. Cross your T's, dot
Cross your T's, dot your I's.
Dyslexic. I think as entrepreneurs, at least speaking for myself, I get super excited to new opportunity, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. And then you just end up wasting 2 years of your life, not wasting, but, kind of taking one step forward, 2 steps back, and possibly could lose a lot of money and a lot of emotional stress and things like that. So I wish I would have paid the money to seek legal counsel and make sure I was doing things properly, because you don't know what you don't know. And that's your biggest risk, is what you don't know. And I didn't. I just trusted whoever was talking to me and was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it, whatever. And I didn't know the risks that I was taking. So sorry to go back, but that would be number 3. And
stay there. So red flags in a business partnership. Before you get started, what are you looking for, and what are some red flags?
It's so hard. It's so hard.
You're like, I got 20.
I catch red flags like they're trophies. So I think, again, I didn't know, like when I first got in a business partnership, I didn't even know what an operating agreement was. So guess what? We didn't have one. So, that if I would have hired an attorney and like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business with someone, they would have said, okay, you need an operating agreement. You need this, you need that. Here's how you work the bank account. Here's your risk. And I didn't do that. I didn't invest the $400 or $500 that I should have. So that's a big thing is do that. But yeah, moving too quickly on things. Make sure you have very clear defined roles, because a lot of times in business partnerships, especially with friends or with anyone, because you naturally get into partnerships with people right? You don't just like go on Craigslist. Well, maybe you do, it depends. But those, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So
I got that one.
Yeah, have very clear defined roles, because if like when the partnership no longer works, it's usually there's no longer a balanced reciprocation of value. So it's like, oh, hey, Jesse, let's start a property management company. You're like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, great. And we start it. and we don't have clear defined roles and expectations, then I'm like, fuck, I'm just pulling all the weight for Jesse, and I'm making all the calls, and I'm getting the leads, and he's out at the bar and brings back 5 business cards to me. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And so that's where you're going to have that off reciprocation of value. But guess what? Jesse owns half the business. Jesse has access to the business, right? Like, you can't unravel that. So I think putting in your operating agreement, what are our roles? What are we doing? What's our growth plan? What's our strategy? What happens if we no longer want to be business partners? How do we buy out or leave or sell or any of those things? Clearly defined from day one. It's just like, you wouldn't want to get married to someone when you're like, oh, I haven't asked them if they want kids. I haven't asked them what they want to do on a daily basis. Are they homebodies? Are they adventurous? Do they like to travel? Like, you want to know all that. It's not just like, oh, this person looks cool and makes me happy, I'm going to marry him. So same thing in a business, because it is a marriage.
So true. And one of my coaches recently, because I was looking at to get into a partnership or an agreement, and he basically said like, hey, look at it as a disagreement, because that's when you actually need these things, when everything, shit hits a fan and you're like, oh shoot, now I got to figure out what's going on. You should have that in place and have those tough conversations early. Totally
Right.
hear you on that.
So true.
So as we wrap up, a couple quick questions. One, for someone just getting started in real estate, or I guess maybe have 1 or 2 properties looking to scale, is there a book or podcast that you would recommend?
Oh, there's so many good ones. I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad is my
That one's too easy. Come on, Hannah. That's too easy. Do one.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, if you're getting into real estate sales, like The Millionaire Real Estate Agent is a classic one. Multifamily Millions by Brandon Turner on Bigger Pockets. That's a good one to teach you about multifamily. Grant Cardone also has a good multifamily book. There's not a ton of books that I've found on commercial real estate, but the multifamily concepts are very similar to any commercial real estate. The value is the same. It's harder to add value to a warehouse, right, than a multifamily. Like, there's only so much you can do to a warehouse. It's more of just a long-term hold. Those books, that's all I can think of off the top of my head, but I have literally hundreds of books I could provide more.
I love it. And then if someone's going through, what they call the valley of despair, or they're taking a couple L's and they're on their entrepreneur journey, whether it's in real estate or their own business, put yourself in their shoes when you're going through those challenges. Is there a quote, or is there just like something you think about? Like, how do you get through that? Because as we know, entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey, especially, we encourage people to be surrounded by community, but some of the things we have to internally just figure out ourselves.
Yeah, the first one that comes to my head is just super simple, and it's the only way out is through. And it's just true. Like, there's going to be storms, there's going to be losses, there's going to be pain and stress and long hours and loss of, friendships or people or vacations or whatever, but you just got to go through it. And in order to get to the point where you're working smarter, not harder, and you can actually step back, like I'm at that point now where I'm like, I love my life. I'm chilling. I work really hard, but I love it. And if I want to take a month off, I take a month off. And, I have the systems and strategies in place, but it wasn't always like that. Like, I worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I had no friends. I had no social life. I cried myself to, like, I had tear stains on my wood table from crying over, 4-page, third dimensional calculus equations in school. I was trying to flip real estate. And, but I just kept going. Like, you just like, Nemo and Dory, just keep swimming, right? And so those lessons that you learn and those, failures are what really makes you unbreakable and unstoppable. Because once you prove to yourself that you can do it, even if you lose it all, you can do it again. And like, if you talk to any millionaire or any billionaire who has lost it all, which a lot of them have at some point, they've built it right back again, versus someone that's just handed money. They don't know what to do with it, and they'll lose it and they'll never get it back. So I think I always take those as blessings, and just really sit back, think about what you learned from that. What did you do wrong? I always do what is working, what isn't working, and what needs to change. And so that way, when you're intentional about that, don't just make a mistake and then do it again. Like, that's insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again. But be intentional, really learn from your mistakes, and that way you can grow and do it better the next time. And just like people that I know in EO, they're like, I was talking to someone, a good friend of mine last night, and he's like, every company, he's had a few exits on companies that he's built and sold. He's like, every company is 10x. It's 10x. Every company I sell for 10 times more than the last company. And you just learn along the way.
What does it look like for you? 5, 10 years. Paint the vision of,
10.
Hannah's already living good.
Yeah.
Hannah's already doing well. Like, you probably don't have to work if you didn't want to right now. But I guess 2 questions. Why keep going? What's your drive to keep going? And then what does that vision look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
So for me, I am one of those people that's always the next thing. I'm always 10x, right? So when I had $0 in the bank, I was like, I want 10,000. Then I wanted 100,000. Then I wanted 1,000,000. Then I want 10 million. Then I want 100 million. And I will always be in a growth mode. Like, you're either growing or you're dying. And not to say everyone has to be like that, because some people are just very content. They're like, oh, I make 100 grand a year off passive income and I am happy. And that's perfectly fine too. I'm just a very growth mode person. It's not that I'm not fulfilled. I just love it. I love having goals. I love working. And to me, I don't want, children and things are not my priority. And so for me, my kind of legacy is to be able to make the biggest impact that I can on other people's lives so they can leave their legacies and live their best lives. And the more money you have, the more impact you can make. And that's what it comes down to. Like, a good person is just going to be a better person with more wealth. A bad person will be a worse person with more wealth. But I believe, because there's charities I want to do and organizations I want to build and people I want to speak to. And I want to help people who were the little child that I was, that was just seeking for answers and seeking for mentorship and community and support and all that. I want to be able to provide that to those people so they can have a life that they're super excited to wake up to every day. I used to wake up and be like, shit, I'm still alive. Like, I used to be just absolutely miserable. And now I wake up, like, I don't want the days to end. Like, I love them so much. I'm just like, I want to be awake all the time. And I just love it. I work hard, but I play hard and I have an amazing life. And so nothing would have broke my heart more than me killing myself, or somebody else doing that, because when I was younger, I never would have imagined that I would be here today saying these things and have a smile on my face and have the life that I have. And so to be able to have a community and build a community and serve others, to be able to know that exists and to be able to actually accomplish it is what I want to do. And yeah, so my next goal is 10 million net profit a year. That's kind of my 10x right now. And, that's where I'm going. So we'll see how long it takes.
Thing about you is that, like, if I could bet on you, I would totally bet on you. Like, you're just someone that is so driven, and you're a great networker too. I just remember we were at the gym together and you're just like, oh, hey. And I was like, every single person here at the gym. Oh, this person does that. This person does that. Like, you're just an incredible person. And I have a bonus question. I didn't prep you for this, so you can say no if you don't want to do this. We'll edit it out. But as a woman and successful, very driven, how's it been in relationships? And I ask this to both men and women. I think it's like people don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. Being so driven and having so much focus in mental real estate on your business, finances, etc. Sometimes we leave other things that are important in our lives, to the wayside. And for me, it's been relationships. How's that been for you?
Yeah, it's hard. It's been hard. And I thrive. Well, I don't know. I've been in some pretty horrible relationships, but I'm a relationship person. Like, I'm very rarely single. I'm, if I'm between relationships, I'm single for a few weeks or a couple months at most, generally. But the issues I get to in relationships is men are very drawn towards me because I'm successful and I'm pretty and I'm, financially don't need their money, and like the things on paper that I guess that a lot of guys would say that maybe they would look for or whatever. But then I get in a relationship with that person, and when I'm in a relationship, I'm 100% committed. Like, I'm as loyal as can be. I give my all to that person. I give all my energy to that person. Usually my business dreams drop because I have to give more energy and time to that person, and I'm willing to, because things change, because you're now, a couple. You're not just thinking about yourself. And I've had boyfriends be like, how come you keep saying I, like when you're talking about the future and not we? And I'm like, ugh. Yeah, so that's how you know it's not the one. But the difficulty that I really run into is they feel insecure pretty quickly. And they feel, I'm around men all the time. I have a lot of male clients. I'm in commercial real estate. They're successful males. I meet with, go to lunches or dinners or breakfast or whatever. So it's been difficult for me to find a man that is, at or above my level with like the thought process and the dreams and the goals and things like that. That is secure enough to allow me to thrive and keep doing what I do and love to do. I've had men be like, "Oh, I want you to stop working," or "You don't need to do that," or "Why do you want to make so much money?" or "Why do you want to start another business?" or "I don't want you going out with clients," or "Why did you look at that guy in the room?" Like just different things like that. And so that's been really hard, is kind of like the power trip is, they maybe feel insecure or demasculated or whatever. So I think it's going to take a really, really special person and a very specific type of person for me to last with. And the problem is not the problem, but the problem for them maybe is like, I don't need them, right? Like if I'm on my own, I am so happy. Like life is dandy. And if I'm in a relationship and then all of a sudden I'm like living under a dark cloud roof, I'm out and I'm not going to stick around. And I don't think anyone should. But the problem, because for me, the purpose of life is to be happy and spread happiness. And if I'm in a relationship where my joy is being sucked instead of given, I'm just going to leave. And fortunately, I can. I don't need their money. I'm not insecure to the point where I have to be with somebody. Like I'm okay with walking out. So it's been tough for sure. And all my relationships are like a year to a year and a half. And then I realize like it's been a dark cloud for a while and I'm like, all right, I can't do the dark cloud anymore. And I restart. But then when I go single, I thrive. Like that's where my big business happens and my big growth happens. Almost all my big growth has been when I've been single. And then when I'm in a relationship, it tends to be more like linear.
What would you tell like 21-year-old Hannah about relationships if you could go back and tell her? And this is obviously for you, but then also for, people listening who have those ambitions that are, not like most people. So I think these are really great conversations to have.
I would say, don't get into a relationship until you are fulfilled. Because if you don't love yourself and you don't respect yourself and you don't trust yourself, and you're codependent and damaged and broken and all the things that I was when I was 21, then you're going to attract that. People can see that, and somebody that is seeking a damaged, broken, codependent, insecure girl or woman is going to find you. And then you're going to create a pattern of those types of people. And then when you meet those types of people, you're going to feel at home because it's comfortable. You're like, oh, I know this, and it gets harder to get away from that. So I would, tell myself to step back, not be in a relationship and really find fulfillment from the inside out. And now that I'm like so happy and strong and confident and fulfilled, like amazing people are attracted to me now that weren't, I was attracting and going for different people in the past. So you really have to be the best version of yourself to attract the best person. Like if you're just a rotten apple, you're not going to find your Prince Charming. You're going to find a rotten apple and you're just going to rot together, So that's the most important thing from my experience.
Gosh, mic drop on that one, Hannah. Last two quick ones. Number one, Growth House, as you mentioned, Go Giver. We are a Go Giver community. So no one's going to reach out because a lot of people are going to want to connect with you. But if they connect with you, they're not going to say, hey, can I pick your brain? We don't do that. What we do is provide value to all our guests first. So what's something that potentially someone within the Growth House community or someone listening can provide you value? It could be anything.
Oh gosh, support and feedback. Support, love, and feedback. I'd like to hear. Here's how you helped me. Those really drive me is when I can help people and help them grow full circle, whether it's mentally and or financially, right? And that just network, just having good people to be around me. But that's about it. Pretty simple.
I love that. So the call to action, if you got, which I know you got a lot of value from listening to this podcast, go send her a DM and say what you learned, even better, voice message or even a video. I love when people do that because just, you're able to actually connect with that person a little bit more. So great way to build that relationship with someone that you're reaching out to. Hannah, how do people find you? What are your, number one social channels that you're on mostly?
Yeah, so I'm mostly on Instagram. I have Facebook too, but my Instagram is Hannah B. Hammond, and that's my handle. And then you'll find my other business accounts through there. But I respond to everybody every day if I can, so I'm active. And then I have TikTok as well, which I think is the same. I think it's Hannah B. Hammond as well.
Hannah B. Hammond. I'm honored to call you a friend. You just have such an energetic personality. You're very personable. You're very humble. And it's honestly just like so cool to have you on the show. And you gave so many gems. And I'm excited to put this out. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse. Right back at you. I'm super blessed to have you in my life.
I love it. Jesse Ray, Growth House Podcast. We're out.